Hi, hello everyone! I'm Toshi from Japan and tourist guide for foreigners. In this video, I'll show you 12 ways tourists waste money in Japan in 2025.
I've been living in Japan for over 30 years and have guided more than 200 international visitors. Over the years, I've noticed so many tourists spending money on things that Japanese locals rarely do, or doing things that just aren't comfortable. In a previous video, I shared 20 of these habits, and it was very popular, with over 200,000 views. Now, I've updated the list based on conversations with guides and travelers, and I've narrowed it down to 12 new tips. In this video, I'll show you how tourists and locals act differently, so you can enjoy Japan comfortably and affordably, just like a local. Plus, I also offer guided tour in Japan, travel itineraries based on trip duration and area, and recommendations for unique cultural experiences.
You can find more information in the description below. So, let's get started. Waste money. Number 1. Overcharging Suica.
One common mistake tourists make in Japan is overcharging their Suica cards. Many visitors get a welcome Suica, thinking it's convenient, but the money on it cannot be refunded. Even with a regular Suica, you can get your balance back, but a handling fee applies. Because of this, some tourists end up buying things at convenience stores they don't really need just to use up the extra balance. Japanese people, on the other hand, usually avoid this problem by recharging their Suica cards in smaller amounts and using the auto-recharge function. This way, when the balance drops below a set amount, the card is automatically topped up. So the key tip is simple: recharge little by little, and if your card supports it, set up auto-recharge.
This helps you avoiding waste money and makes your traveling in Japan smoother and convenient. Number 2. Using Shinkansen for short trips.
One common mistake tourists make in Japan is taking the Shinkansen for very short trips. For example, many visitors ride the Shinkansen between Kyoto and Osaka, a journey that takes only 15 minutes and costs about 1,500 yen. I've even seen this happen with participants on my tour. Japanese people, however, never use the Shinkansen for such short distances. Instead, they take the regular train, which costs only 600 yen and takes about 25 minutes. The same applies to trips between Nagoya and Kyoto, where locals often choose express trains or buses to save time and money. So, unless your main goal is to experience the Shinkansen itself, taking it for short distances isn't necessary.
For nearby trips, it's usually smarter to explore alternative transportation options that are cheaper and just as convenient. Number 3. Spending too much on drinks at restaurants.
One small but common mistake tourists make in Japan is ordering cold drinks like oolong tea at restaurants. In many countries, ordering any beverage is normal, but in Japan, cold water is usually served for free at restaurants. This means you don't need to spend extra money if you just want something to quench your thirst. Of course, if you really want to enjoy tea, feel free to order a cold drink. But remember, if your goal is simply to stay hydrated, free water is always an option. So, when you're dining in Japan, keep this small cultural difference in mind.
It can help you save money and experience Japan more like a local. Number 4. Overpaying for festival food.
One common mistake tourists make at festivals and events in Japan is buying too much food from the stalls. Many of these foods are sold at event prices, which can be 2 to 3 times higher than usual. Tourists often get caught up in the excitement and end up spending a lot more than necessary. Japanese people, on the other hand, often bring snacks or meals from supermarkets or convenience stores. This way, they can enjoy the festival without overpaying. Of course, if you really want to eat something immediately from the stall, that's perfectly fine. But if you're just a little hungry or want to save money, it's good to remember that alternative options exist.
By keeping this in mind, you can enjoy festivals and events without overspending and still experience the fun like a local. Number 5. Buy paper maps at attractions.
One mistake I often see tourists make in Japan is paying for paper pamphlets or maps at major attractions. These days, many places charge for paper guides because of sustainability efforts and the rising cost of paper. For example, at Expo Osaka, even the paper map came with a fee, and some visitors told me they waited in line for more than 30 minutes just to buy one. Japanese locals rarely do this. Instead, they simply download free PDF from the official website or use the official app, which is faster, cheaper, and much more convenient. Of course, if you want the paper version as a souvenir, go ahead and buy it.
But if you just need a map to get around, remember there is always a free digital option that saves both time and money.
Number 6. Buying traditional Japanese souvenirs.
In places like Asakusa in Tokyo or the old streets of Kyoto, you'll often see large samurai items for sale, like swords or pieces of armor. For many tourists, these look like exciting souvenirs, but Japanese people rarely buy them. Why? Because they take up a lot of space, have no real practical use, and usually just end up as clutter. I remember buying a decorative sword myself on a school trip to Kyoto when I was a teenager. It seemed cool at first, but it quickly became a burden to carry, and eventually, I had to throw it away at home. And for visitors, there's another problem. It's bulky and hard to take back to your country. It may even cause trouble at airports.
So while it might look fun in the moment, think twice before spending money on oversized samurai souvenirs.
If you would like a personal guide in Japan or need recommendations for travel plans and cultural experiences,
Please contact me from the link in the description section.
Number 7. Paying too much for rental bikes.
In cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, many tourists rent bicycles at sightseeing spots. It feels eco-friendly and convenient, and sometimes they even choose electric bikes to avoid the crowds. But here's the problem. These tourist rentals often cost between 2,000 and 4,000 yen per day. Japanese locals almost never rent this way. Instead, they use city-run bike share systems or apps, which charge only a few hundred yen per 30 minutes. It's not only cheaper, but also more flexible, since you only pay for the time you actually ride. One of the most popular services is Docomo Bike Share. It's available in most major tourist areas. The bikes are often electric assisted, and you can pick up a bike in one place and return it at another. So while daily tourist rentals may seem easy, remember that locals save money and stay mobile by using share bikes.
It's a smarter way to get around Japan's big cities.
Number 8. Wasting money at hotels.
Some travelers arriving in Japan choose early check-in or late check-out at hotels. It feels convenient, especially if your flight or sightseeing schedule doesn't match the hotel's standard hours. But here's the catch. These options are usually very expensive. Japanese locals almost never pay for this. Instead, they simply leave their luggage at the hotel, which is usually free, and then head out to explore the city. That way, they save money and don't waste precious travel time. And if they need a place to rest during the day, they often use capsule hotels or day-use plans. These are much cheaper, surprisingly comfortable, and designed exactly for short breaks.
So while tourists spend extra for hotel hours, locals save money and still save comfortable by using smarter options.
Not comfortable. Number 9. Choosing the wrong hotel location.
One of the biggest mistakes tourists make in Japan is choosing a hotel only because it's cheap without considering the location. Japanese travelers don't just look at the price, they think about convenience too. For example, one of my American friends booked a budget hotel in Chiba, outside of Tokyo. The room was cheaper, but every day it took more than an hour just to reach the city center. And the extra train fares completely erased the savings. Some visitors even stay near Narita Airport, thinking it's close to Tokyo, but Narita is actually about 2 hours away, which makes it a terrible base for sightseeing. So, where should you stay instead? I know it's not easy to figure out if you don't know the local geography. That's why I made a separate video where I share the best areas and hotels in Tokyo and Osaka.
Make sure to check it out so you can enjoy your trip to the full set.
Number 10. wearing stylish but uncomfortable shoes.
When traveling in Japan, comfortable shoes are absolutely essential. Japan cities rely heavily on public transportation, which means you'll be walking to train stations, up and down stairs, across busy streets, and around sightseeing spots. In places like Kyoto, there are also hills and temples with long stone steps. Many tourists want to look stylish, but that often comes at a painful cost. One of my American friends wore high heels while traveling, and her trip was basically ruined because of sore feet. Japanese people, on the other hand, are used to this environment. They usually choose practical, comfortable shoes over fashion when going out, because they know how much walking is involved. When I lived in the US, I only walked about 3,000 steps a day since I mainly drove everywhere. But in Japan, it's common to walk 20,000 to even 30,000 steps in a single day of sightseeing.
So leave the fashionable shoes at home and make sure to pack a pair that built for comfortable.
Number 11. Not booking attractions in advance.
One of the biggest mistakes tourists make in Japan is not reserving tickets in advance. Many visitors want to experience Japan's unique attractions, but recently, more and more places require reservations. If you just show up, you may not be able to enter at all. For example, Tokyo Disneyland stopped selling same-day tickets in 2024, and Universal Studios Japan followed in May 2025. Popular spots like Team Lab Borderless, Shibuya Sky, the Pokemon Cafe, and the Ghibli Museum are all reservation only. I've heard so many stories of travelers being turned away simply because they didn't book ahead. Even the bullet train can sell out, meaning you might miss your preferred departure time. And if you do manage to get in without a reservation, you'll often pay more for same-day tickets and spend hours waiting in long lines. Japanese people avoid this by reserving early to save both time and money. As a tour guide, I often receive last-minute requests, but by that time, my schedule is already booked with other guests, and I can't accept them. It's always disappointing to turn people away. So, always book your experiences and attractions in advance. And if you're interested in guided tour or travel services,
I look forward to welcoming you to Japan.
Number 12. Eating ramen every meal.
many tourists in Japan rely on convenience store bento, ramen shops, or fast food chains like McDonald's for almost every meal. These options are cheap, quick, and easy to find, and the variety of choices makes them tempting for travelers. But here's the catch: Japanese locals don't usually eat like this. They know that convenience store meals and fast food often contain preservatives and are not the healthiest choice. Instead, they tend to go for home-style meals, set lunches, or small traditional restaurants, which are just as affordable and often much more satisfying. So while it might seem cheaper or easier to eat only bento and fast food, you're missing out on authentic Japanese flavors. Choosing local eateries or set meals allows you to enjoy better quality food and a more genuine experience.
How was today's video? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like button. See you in my next video. Bye!